Hi, folks. Welcome back. And to my new listeners, welcome. Here's an interview I had with Jennifer in Rainbows and Silver Linings. It's the channel. She has a channel called Sweet Home California. She also has a side channel. And we talked about how I was a former Democrat and changing the hearts and minds of people to conservative, constitutional way of looking at things. I hope you enjoy it. It was a really great interview. Jennifer's a good soul. She's a good egg. And I hope you get something out of it. And if you feel my content is worth listening to, please subscribe. And so here we go. Here's the interview.
Hello and welcome to Rainbows and Silver Linings. My name is Jennifer, and just a quick introduction for our show. Our topic is today changing people's hearts and minds. But here on Rainbows and Silver Linings, just the whole concept of the show is, we want to take back our symbols, and the rainbow is the symbol that God is not going to destroy us by flood, and we just want to focus on the positive on this channel, this particular show. And of course, there's also silver linings out there that things look bad and the storm looks rough, but the rainbow will come out, and God will protect us. So anyhow, today we're going to talk about changing people's minds. And it's not just people's minds that we're talking about here, because so many times it's not the facts of the matter that determine something, but it's also the heart. And so we need to change people's hearts as well. And there are a number of people over the years that have changed their minds on things. And unfortunately, I can't speak from my own personal experience on that because I've always kind of been conservative, and I can't recall ever having actually influenced one of my liberal friends to not be liberal. We just kind of agree to disagree. So I wanted to bring in John Cordisco, and he is a gentleman who at one point called himself a Democrat. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and add him to our channel here. How you doing, John? How are you?
Hi, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I was listening to your show when you were on Archibald and Fox and Archibald, and you were talking about
Oh, yeah.
your background. And so that kind of really intrigued me. So many times, people think there's no point in talking about politics. It is what it is. We should just all the conservatives should leave California because it's a lost cause. But your story kind of gives me hope. So tell me a little bit about
Well,
your background.
it's funny. I'm a former businessman. I sold my business last spring, over 20 years. I was a city council member here in upstate New York from 2000 to 2007. The entire time I was a Democrat. In fact, I was the city council president in 2006, which makes me the head Democrat. And to be honest with you, I saw the way Democrats were going here locally. Not that I'm any soothsayer or anything, and I can see the future, but I never even thought they would get this bad. But so I left the party in 2013. It didn't really matter to me up here. But I finally got fed up with it. And be honest with you, we label all these things. Liberals, old school liberals are First Amendment people.
Mm-hmm.
See, here's the problem. They're speaking the exact same language we are, English. But the fact of the matter is we're using a different dictionary. They have different definitions for everything. So when you say I've always been conservative and my liberal friends, well, that doesn't have any meaning anymore. Bill
That's
Maher,
true. Liberal
Bill Maher is a
liberal was
liberal. He's a liberal.
yeah, liberal was supposed to be live, let live, and that really isn't the case anymore, is it?
Dave Rubin is a liberal. In a
Right.
lot of ways, Donald Trump's a liberal.
Right.
It's been distorted. But what's happened is the old school liberals, conservative people like yourself, had a list of things that they had in common, things they believed in, i.e. the Constitution and a few other social norms that everybody agreed in.
Yeah.
And now it is not happening anymore. That part of the Democrat Party is now basically either hidden or kept quiet or just disappeared altogether. They aged out, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a bunch there.
Yeah. You were talking about how,
Oh, you put me in good company there. I appreciate that.
yeah, so yeah, Donald Trump was registered Democrat at one point for about 8 years, what I could find. Ronald Reagan, he was governor of California as a Democrat.
Yeah, but Democrats back then were pretty much conservative people now. The Overton window has moved so far left. You know, conservative in morals, conservative in social, conservative in fiscal. There's a lot of things. I'm not an ultra conservative, but I would probably be. I'm not right of center. I'm maybe a little bit more right than that. I guess if you really had to pin it down. There's just certain principles we all agree on, i.e., the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Uh, there's just certain things we all used to agree on. We don't anymore. They want to get rid of electoral college. They want to get rid of this. They want to get rid of that. We have no common ground anymore.
Yeah, it seems like everybody wants to demonize the other point of view, and so it really makes it hard to kind of get any common ground. Um, I
Well,
was looking,
I think that's done on purpose.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I know this sounds probably gonna. It's a quote from a movie. Did you ever see the movie Amistad?
No, I haven't.
It's about the Africans. John Quincy Adams, the former president, is now a congressman. The only president ever to be a congressman after he was president. He represents them in the trial. And it's about the fact that the slave trade was outlawed. They picked up some slaves illegally. And so the trial was whether they should be released or, sent into slavery. And they were concerned that the Supreme Court ruled in the Africans' favor, it would cause a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line towards the end of the movie. I don't know how accurate it is, but I think it certainly had the idea of the time is if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the Amistad Africans, it'll bring out civil war. And if it does, then let it come and let it be finally the last battle of the American Revolution. And when we say war now, I'm not talking about a shooting war.
Mm-hmm.
They are our opposite side, our opponents are sometimes enemies. They don't play by the rules, and we do. And we have to learn not to bring a knife to a gunfight anymore. And this is serious stuff. We're on the edge. This republic could fall. And at least government-wise, I don't mean, marching armies or any of that. Most great civilizations are destroyed internally.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way a standing army could take the United States. It's just an impossibility. So they take it from internally. And I'm 65, so we'll say the next 6 to 8 years, I think it's going to determine which direction we go into for at least a century.
Yeah, well, so, they took over the education. And so all the kids growing up now, for the most part, they have been indoctrinated into a certain set of beliefs. And,
Yeah.
when we're talking about trying at this point, talking to adults and changing their minds on something, it's not just always about the facts,
Well, there's
you
been
know.
one big change. They've always had the academic institutions, always, even since before I was born. The problem is, though, uh, the conservative people say, well, these young people, they get into college and they learn all this wacky stuff. And then when they get older and get in the real world, they come around to reality. Now, that worked for a long time, but one thing changed, the internet.
Yeah.
So now these young people can be in their progressive bubble, whereas before they couldn't function in society unless they were exposed to everything. And that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, these are some things that why people might resist the facts of the matter. Obviously emotion, family, how they grew up, their job, if depending on, like the teachers union.
But they were never in a bubble years ago. I mean, they were
Right.
exposed to stuff. But when they were out in the real world, they were exposed to everything. They're
Yeah.
not exposed to everything anymore because of the internet.
Right. They can choose to just be associating with the people that are like minds and be an echo
Sure.
chamber, which, we can say that the conservatives are like that as well, that, I spend a lot of time, more time on group pages that reinforce my beliefs versus those that challenge my beliefs.
Yeah, but every single poll I've ever seen from all kinds of different polling agencies have said center, moderates, right of center, when it comes to watching media, over 70% will watch, we'll call the opposing side, for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
where progressive people, less than 10% watch the other side. It's very lopsided. They choose to be in that bubble and they want to stay in it. Now, as conservative people, maybe because we're more open-minded, we do listen to the other side because not everything they do is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the way they express themselves. But the thing is, though, we're open-minded to the other side. They are not, period. And that's where your problem is.
Yeah, I do watch other, you know, like CNN and MSNBC, and I'll read a whole bunch of different articles, and I share different perspectives on my Sweet Home California Facebook group page because I think it's important to know how they're perceiving us. And it's really interesting to see how they are talking about the People's Convoy, for instance, the
Right.
things that they're focusing on. You know, there are some people apparently who are affiliated with the Proud Boys and the 3%. And so they're characterizing the whole movement, all those tens of thousands of people that have been hanging out at Hagerstown Speedway
Right.
and
Right.
then going around and circling the Beltway. They're trying to associate them all with being white supremacists, which is nothing
Well,
further from the truth.
reinforces my point about the bubble is conservative people, yes, you're going to get like some people that are in Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a very tiny percent that are just plain old bad on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the problem. Our side, for lack of a better term, has that small percent of just, I'll be polite, jerks, bad people. But the opposing side, the bad people are in control and are the majority. We have 2, 3%, 4% that are bad. They have 50, 60, 65%. And therein lies your problem.
I don't know. I don't know
Oh, it
if we
is. It's
can
that
know
high.
that for
It's that
sure.
high. It's that
Well,
high.
I've got family that are of the more progressive side, the left side of the political spectrum, and they certainly believe everything that's been said about people who support Trump, in terms of that they think that um, we want to put other races down and that sort of thing. Um, but when I talk to them, they want to do good.
One-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one, they want to do good, and
You get 4 or 5 in a room, they're different
yeah.
people. Believe me, I've been in enough meetings here locally and seen enough videos. I one-on-one in my store, I converted a lot of people, so to speak, in the local Citizen Action of New York. Put it this way, the people that founded Acorn came from Citizen Action of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And there was about a half a block from my store. And since I left the Democrat Party, that made me the Antichrist. And they did everything in my power to close my business with boycotts and all kinds of crazy stuff. Make a long story short, I was converting a lot of younger people, not so much converting them, but just have them say, you gave me something to think about. I'll look that stuff up. And that just scared the heck out of them. And I eventually had to close because of it.
Yeah. Here, I want to show a slide here real quick
Sure.
on that. As Steven Crowder is really good at talking to people about difficult topics. And so he has this segment called Change My Mind.
Oh yeah, I've seen that, sure.
Yeah. And so these are sort of his process of how he goes about it. So,
But you got to remember too, he's in front of a big crowd.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras are there. The people normally, as a rule, are on their best behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You take those cameras away, they will not act like that. That's the problem. We're kidding ourselves that it's hard to, you just have to say, how's that line go in the movie? What we have here is failure to communicate.
Right.
There's just some men you just can't reach.
Yeah.
And you have to decide
to
and waste your time on them.
Yeah. Well, I would just want to read these out
Sure.
for people who are just listening. So when you go to try and change someone's mind, it's and you're trying to persuade someone, you need to go slow. You need to build rapport, don't use insults, concisely summarize how the other person feels. And you do that in such a way so that you want to make sure that when you talk, then you're not straw manning their argument. You want to make
Hmm.
sure that you understand exactly what their point of view is. And then when you're speaking, you want to make it clear that you're speaking from your perception of reality. And
There's no such thing as like my truth. I hate that expression.
yeah,
My
no,
perception of reality and my truth is the same.
yeah,
The
well,
world is round no matter if you perceive it as that or not.
true. But in terms of like approaching it from more of being a humble position,
Yeah,
uh, because
that's what got
it's a
us
matter,
that's what got us in
no,
this jam.
no, because you want to, you want to kind of persuade them to your point of view. But if you are coming at it as in it's
But
my way
here's
or
the
the
catch.
highway,
Here's the
I'm always
catch.
right,
Here's
then
the
you may
catch.
lose them before you can even begin.
Here's the catch though. You've got to figure out at the beginning of it whether they're persuadable or not.
Hmm.
And that's the trick.
Right. That is
It's
so
it's
true.
it's like trying to I guess teach a blind person how to read. I mean, it's an impossibility. It can't be done. So the fact of the matter is, though, you've got to decide pretty early on in a conversation with somebody whether they're at least open-minded enough to even consider your position. And
Hmm.
that's becoming a smaller and smaller percent.
Well, you just said about how you can't teach a blind person to read. Well, I think Helen Keller would disagree with you on
That's
that. So,
Braille. I'm talking about
yeah,
reading a book like we
oh,
do.
I
That's
understand,
impossible.
but the point of the matter is that you still are able to get a, it's a form of print, and it's a form of
Yeah, but I
communication.
was using that as a metaphor.
No, I
It's like,
understand,
okay, how about
but
teaching
I
a
want to
dog to
use it.
climb a tree? I mean, I'll
Right, but
use
I want
that
to
one.
use it as an example of how maybe just kind of thinking outside the box and trying to reach them from multiple different
I
different
used to be just
ways.
like you for a very long time. And look at the position we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this for a minute. I'm watching a video the other day, an older one, with Donald Trump sitting in the Oval Office as president. And there sits the Speaker of the House and the head Democrat, my senator, unfortunately, Chuck Schumer.
Hmm.
And they're screaming at each other. And I went, it's that dialogue is over. I'm afraid it is. Now we can do it on an individual basis, people we
Yeah.
know.
So
And
let's talk about that, because that really is where, from hearing you speak, that you've had some success in. So I really want to kind of hear about that,
okay.
because
Well, I'll give you an
it starts
example.
with one person. I mean,
I'll give you a
you can't
class.
change the
I'll
world.
give you a class example. I get a lot of SUNY students. SUNY Binghamton's a really good college, college set of colleges here in New York. And we got a whole ton of New York City kids. And a few of them come in my store and they're the ultra liberals. Or we'll call them progressives. We won't call them liberals.
Hmm.
And, they knew I was an ex-councilman and they knew I got bad mouthed by Citizen Action. So they were just kind of feeling me out to see if I'm the monster they make me out to be. And climate change came up. And I said, you're from New York, right? This is an example of how I try to use logic. There's two girls. I said, you're that big, giant, huge rock in Central Park, the one that's the size of a building. She goes, yeah, I've seen it a million times. I go, how do you think it got there? She goes, well, my understanding is glaciers brought them. I says, yeah. And what happened to the glaciers? She goes, well, they melted. I says, because of global warming. There was no people around back then. I says, maybe you ought to rethink what you're really thinking. One girl says you gave me something to think about. The other one swore at me and went out the door.
Hmm.
And that's how you got to persuade people. It's something they can associate with, i.e. she grew up in New York. But
Hmm.
even still, once she leaves there and goes amongst her colleagues and or friends, the little bit of ground that I made will be gone. It's just the reality. We have to face that reality. There's only a small percent we can change. We only need 5-10% to change everything.
Right.
I'm not as optimistic as you on the human condition. You're you're a much nicer person. My opinion of humans and politics is very skewed, I guess, in a way. But I still have hope. I wouldn't be doing my YouTube channel. It's a tough road.
Yeah.
We've sat back and watched them take over everything. And now we try to fight back. We're at a huge disadvantage.
We are. We are. But, I kind of think it kind of goes back to Second Chronicles 7:14 here, which says, if my people who are called by my name and humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. And, I think it really kind of goes back to, I'm not sure if you're a religious person, but I think, our
I was
country.
brought up Roman Catholic. I've had some experiences that are really interesting when it comes to that, then maybe someday we'll share.
Okay. But in my point of view, though, is that I think that our country was founded on biblical principles.
Yes,
And
Judeo-Christian values, right?
it's been often said that, our form of government is not suited to a non-religious
Right.
people. And so if that's our foundation, then we really kind of need to get back to that, so
Because
that we
their
can
world,
use that
right?
worldview
Yeah.
to form our policies.
Yeah, we did already. The Constitution, some of the things that
Mhm.
we had. But the problem is they're living in a, what's the term? I'm trying to remember what it is. A multicultural or diverse democracy, and we're living in a republic.
Mhm.
We're on two different planets, and there's no in between. I'm sorry, there isn't. And just like the Civil War now, we won't have one. We want to have a political civil war. And right now, well, the Democrat Party has already changed dramatically for the worse. I
Mhm.
think the Republican Party is slowly changing. They're kicking and screaming as they do it, but they're slowly changing to be a more open-minded and more reasonable to things. I think Trump had a lot to do with that. It's funny. I said that on Archibald, was it Archibald and Cox show?
Mhm.
I said,
Fox and Archibald.
you're right. Who would have thought 7, 8 years ago that a dorky guy with a baby face and a bow tie called Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump, billionaire real estate playboy,
Mhm.
might be the two people that saves this republic? You would think they were nuts.
Mhm.
But you never know what's going to come up out of the woodwork in the next 2, 3, 4 years
Yeah.
to bring us around. But I'm optimistic we're going to win the war in the end, for lack of a better term, war.
Mhm.
I'm not as optimistic in humans as you are, though. I mean, it's people's funny. People come in my store all the time. And my favorite expression, even when I was a councilman, people would laugh because it's kind of funny. And it goes back to religious things too, if you think about it, but I just put it in a different way. All people suck. It's just some of us suck a lot less than others. Now that
Yeah.
goes back to maybe original sin and that kind of thing. It means the same thing. It means all people are inherently flawed.
That's true. We all are.
We
And
all
that's
are.
right. And that's what I meant by when we talk to people of an opposing view, that we have to recognize that we've got our own blind spots as
Yep.
well, and to talk with them, from love. This is my shirt for today, is love them anyway. Um, because if we don't love them, we don't have a relationship with them, then I think it's just that much harder to
Yeah, but
try and build any bridges.
like one of your children, you can love them, but you don't necessarily like them.
That's true.
I've got two kids. I'm not saying I'm like that with mine, but there's gets to a point where you can love them where it actually hurts them.
Hmm.
Live and let live. And you can think your way and I'll think my way. Those days are over, I'm afraid, because their
Hmm.
ways of thinking include you.
Exactly. Yeah, I've heard Charlie Kirk often say to people who are socialists that, we want to just, own the means of production and all that. And Charlie Kirk says, well, go be like the Amish and the Mennonite communities. Go and form your own community. Have communal farming. Own a factory, and you all can share all the profits. And you can do that, but that's not really what you want. You want to force everybody else to live the exact same way that you want to live.
Well, I got, fairness. I mean, if you go to look at both sides, the last generation and a half, 2 generations has really, really gotten screwed over, for lack of a better term. I mean, you can't buy a house. You're in debt for 25 years for college loans. I mean, the wages hasn't gone up decently in over a decade. I mean, they were put into a situation that was really, really bad for them.
Hmm.
I mean, they're going to owe more money in a lot of cases than our houses cost when we were younger. And they got to start off on that bad foot. And I can
Hmm.
see why they had this attitude like, wait a minute, I was told since I was a kid, college, 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 by my counselors, my parents, blah, blah, blah. I got out of college. I can't find a decent job and I owe 60 grand.
Right. Well,
How am I going to get a house? How am I
you
going to have a
majored in
relationship?
philosophy and modern dance,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
even still, even if it was a decent degree, it's not a
Mhm.
trade.
Yeah.
Trade school is a little different, but even if it was a liberal arts degree, my father, who was the first to go to college, what I'm saying is that they were told a lie. The
Hmm.
world had changed. And when they got in it, they went, wait a minute, this isn't what you told us was going to happen. You told
Hmm.
us that we would be making $1 million more in our lifetime if we go to college. Well, that's not true. You lied to us. But the problem is, though, the people that lied to them aren't the ones they blame. And they're in a bad spot. And I can see why they're angry. I
Hmm.
would be too. We'll say I'm 23 years old. I'm $50,000 plus in debt. And I can't find a job that makes more than $17 an hour. Yeah, I'd be furious too.
Yeah.
As they've been lied to by the same people that they support. That's the ironic part.
I went through the McDonald's drive-through. I don't normally eat at McDonald's. I normally avoid it like the plague, but I was outvoted in the car. So we go
Yeah.
through we go through the McDonald's drive-through, and they have a help wanted sign up there saying
No.
immediate interviews,
Uh,
starting pay at $16 an hour.
yeah, that's pretty good for here in upstate New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing to me. It's how do I put this? I don't think the younger people are lazy. I think a work ethic is either brought over time, is refined. Like we'll give you an example. My grandmother, my mother's mother, worked at Ansco, which is GAF here in upstate New York, for 48 years. Same
Hmm.
place. Never called in a sick day in 48 years.
Wow.
That's the way it used to be. And those social norms and that way of looking at it has not been passed on. And we're in a really bad spot. We're at the beginning of the Revolutionary War, metaphorically. It's going to be the darkest time. And the first year of the Revolutionary War was really dark.
Hmm.
I mean, they were getting pounded. And it almost disintegrated several times. And I believe we're in that position politically and metaphorically. But I think in the end, we're going to win, but it's not going to be as clean and as kind and as generous as you hope it's going to be. But in the end, we will get the same goal and we'll come out way better for it.
Hmm.
But that's
Well, yeah,
just my take on it.
I think that we really need to get back to our foundations, you know, and believing in God and believing that we have to be morally upright people.
Well, I think of it as a businessman. In other words, I had a little convenience store, neighborhood convenience store, you know, I sold beer, cigarettes, and groceries and candy and chips and all that stuff. But I also had bottle redemption, not the same as California does,
Hmm.
but similar. And it would be like me as a businessman buying advertising, we'll say on TV or a local newspaper, and advertise to people that would never bring a bottle and can to my store. Why would I bother? Why would I bother trying to convince people to bring back their returns to my store when they don't have any? It's pointless.
Hmm.
Same goes politically. We're going to have to try to weed out the 6, 8, 10% that are reasonable, convince those people. And then when we get the majority, we can make the major change. We're not going to convert as many as you think, but we
Yeah.
don't need as many as you think.
No, and it doesn't need to really need to be the majority, because I think there's a lot of people who just are so apathetic. They're not going to affect things one way or another. So you just have to kind of grow the people that, you know, as you said, are open to to learning
But
something
I'm
new.
I'm afraid that waiting a generation of people to come around and letting them grow into it. We tried that tactic, but the internet
Hmm.
just messed that entire theory up to
Yeah.
pieces. So
But I
we have to
think,
change tactics. It's like any
yeah,
other creature on Earth. Either you adapt to your environmental change or you become extinct.
right. Well, I know YouTube doesn't want you spreading your word. You know, you've
Oh
been shadow
gosh.
banned pretty bad, but
Oh,
you've got some great videos that you have. You know, you well researched them, and I think that
I
it has
appreciate that.
the possibility of really affecting people that may be those folks that are on the fence.
Oh, they've got their
So,
thumb on me so hard. I just want to say before we run out of time, The only other way, now I'm on other platforms now. I'm on Rumble now, and I will be on True Social. But I just want to tell people the only way to even help any of your channels is try to share the link of a video anywhere you can. That helps
Mm-hmm.
gets around the algorithm and the shadow banning. I'm going to say the word right out. And what it really does is what the CNN guy said once, and I just completely lost my mind. Brian Stelter, that piece of work, when he said, "We're not taking away your freedom of speech, we're taking away your freedom of reach." You can
Yeah.
just sit in a room and talk to your friend, and that's you got your freedom of speech. But we're
Mm-hmm.
going to make it so nobody else can hear you.
Yeah. And that's why I think we still need to remain on YouTube until they drag us off kicking and screaming,
Yeah, I got a copyright.
metaphorically.
I got a strike for reporting a story on Project Veritas and just reporting off of their YouTube video.
Mm-hmm. But yet they
That,
remain
yeah,
on because they've got the lawyers that will sue YouTube, and YouTube knows we
well,
don't have any
I think in
any
this
kind of
case,
resources like that.
I embellished a couple of things. When I say embellish, I didn't lie, but I brought out certain things and certain topics they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Things
Um,
that they left unsaid.
yeah, though they were in there, but they didn't go into detail as much as me. But well, that goes off in a month. I really don't care. But the thing is, though, we got to keep plugging away, and in order to help channels like ourselves, we have to send links out everywhere you can.
Mm-hmm.
Emails. Now, you don't have to send the video, just a link.
Right.
Emails, social media, other YouTube channels, other platforms like Rumble, Twitter, Odyssey, Facebook. The list is endless now. Just send out every link.
Yeah.
And what also helps us is watch all the videos to the end and get as much playtime as we can so some of us can get monetized and ramp up the channel.
Yeah. As of today, I think I'm about 200 hours shy. So,
Yeah, I'm almost got 900 now, and I doubt if I'm at 1,200 hours. Well, they didn't
and
tell
you've
you
got like
that.
over 600 videos. So yeah,
Oh no,
once people,
I'm on
oh
955
my
currently.
goodness, yes,
Yeah,
I knew it was a lot.
yeah, because I do them in numerical order.
Okay, yeah,
You'll
that's a
see in
good
my
idea.
videos sometimes on the end of the title, you'll see the number.
Right, right, yeah.
But
Well, John,
so
I
we're getting
I
short
gotta
on
wrap
time,
up,
right?
and I just really want to thank you for your time and coming here. And
No, sure.
I think that yeah, there's going to be a number of people who will never change their mind. But I don't know how many people you might have talked to. You think, oh well, they got talked out of their view that they learned from you, that because they got surrounded by their friends and changed their
Sure.
mind again. But on the
Well,
other hand,
yeah.
maybe they did switch.
Uh,
You'll know in heaven.
what's the pamphlet by Thomas Paine, Beginning of the War? That's where we're at now.
Hmm.
We're at the darkest period for conservative people. The the fair weather patriot, the sunshine patriot, he called them.
Hmm.
And over time, we're going to win, but
Hmm.
we just can't give up. This is going to be the darkest time for the next 3 or 4 years. And then in the other end, we're going to come out and we're going to save the republic, and we're going to go on for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up here, and we will. I'll have you on again, John. I really
No, thanks
appreciate
for
your
having me.
perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm a little bright spot in my day from watching all the negative news all the time. So you're a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And you all make sure you subscribe to John Cordisco's Corner, and follow me also over on Sweet Home California. Thank
Yep.
you, and I will see you next week.
And they say in Italian, salute.
Salute. Bye.
Bye.